right. So excited every single time I get to do a podcast. Here I get to wonderful. So I'm in a different place than my normal studio. I am in Boston, Massachusetts this week. I am visiting grandkids and it's having some fun. And but so excited to continue to be able to do this and talk to people. And so if you're used to seeing my normal background, I apologize. I am in the basement and it's so beautiful here. I should have probably just sat outside on the balcony with the coat on because it's a little bit chilly with all the leaves changing and all that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll run out there or something and jump out there, halfway through this. But thank you guys for being on today. I'm thinking about, I was having some dreams about what it meant to live boldly with purpose. And I was talking to our guest, Chris, just a little bit, before we started the show. And he said somebody asked him a question as to what advice would you give somebody that was 18-year-old now today based on your experience. And, that my dream was kind of just about that. I was actually talking to, so a group of kids, I think that were, I don't know, 8th or 9th grade or something like that. And I was trying to figure out, Chris, how do we live in this life that they have right now? And sometimes I don't know. I don't know if obviously I would have handled it because I would have had the same experiences they have, but I don't know how well I would have handled it because, like for you and me, we didn't have internet. We didn't have cell phones. If we want to talk on the phone, we had this long cord that was connected to our heads and that kind of stuff. You're a little bit older than me. I was born in 65, so I know, I was too young you were talking about the draft and, the things that went on there. But I just don't know. I mean, just the way of coping with life. Like I have to compare myself today, at least kids do, right? Because all kids compare themselves to other kids. Well, the only kids I was comparing myself to were the ones that were on my block. And I had known them my whole life, so there was nothing to really compare. I knew them. I was me and they were there. But I see like today, if I go online and I'm looking and thinking, I'm looking in my mirror and I'm seeing me, but then I got 100,000 other kids that look just, similar to me or the age or the height or something like that. But sometimes I think they're winning because they put something on social media that I didn't know how to do, or they did something that was their best life and that got put on there. And I'm going, well, my life's not like that. And I'm comparing it. And I just don't know how how I would be able to handle that and think about that. Now, we'll talk about this a lot when we're done with your story, but now there's this thing called artificial intelligence where I grew up where I had to know things. Like we had to go memorize stuff and take a test and then say that we were judged by how well we memorize facts. And then I think of today's generation, they don't need to memorize any facts, and then they're not being judged by that. What are they being judged by? Their ability to learn? I don't know. So hopefully we'll get to talk about that. But before we do that, Chris, I would love for you to tell your story. What happened to you in your life, and you can start wherever you want. Chris, you can't get this wrong because it's your story. No matter what you tell us,
finally, I can't get this wrong.
You can't get it wrong. Even if you made it up, there's no way I would know, right? Because we don't know each other. So please just go ahead and tell us your story, and then we'll chop it up after that. And I think people just get so much more out of knowing who we are instead of what we do all the time. And then they really get to relate, and then we can really talk about things that are relevant to their life. So, for being here today, I appreciate you just taking your time. I know it's early where you're at, and you're still coming on.
Come on. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, man. It's not that early. Hey, I told you, I was up for a 7:30 breakfast meeting. We're getting
all right. There you go. There you go. All right. Well, go ahead and tell us your story.
All right. So my story. I'm just a humble country boy. I'll spare you all the early days. I went to school at the University of Washington, and I hit the college campus in 1969. Oh God! And the whole world erupted in the spring of 1970, and it was just a very, very different time. My spring semester in 1970 as a political science student, they told us don't come back because we're not going to have class for 6 weeks. Go out, be on the streets, be involved, come back and write a paper. Right? So it was just a very different time.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I was, I got to the UW. I'm 6'4". They instantly wanted me to go out for the crew team, right? Because of the rich history there, the boys in the boats and all that stuff. And I said, well, let me get this straight. Now, I'm 18 years old. You want me to get up at 5 in the morning, go out in the dark and the cold and the rain and row around in Lake Washington. And at a moment in time when everybody's going Jesus Christ Superstar with their hair, you want me to get a buzz cut. No, that's a hard pass. So I kind of went the opposite direction. I ended up playing rugby at the U and captained the team when I was a senior. And that kind of, and not, of course, you never know at the moment, but that kind of started me down this kind of path to where I am today. I graduated, I did a master's degree, kept playing rugby all through my 20s. I worked, I developed kind of an aversion. I was kind of thinking about what do I want to do for my life. And I was really clear that whatever it was, I didn't want to do whatever it was, the same freaking thing for 30 years and get a gold watch. That just seemed like a nightmare to me. So I was in Alaska helping implement the Native Claims Settlement Act. I was doing political campaigns. I was doing this, that, and the other. And then everything changed one fateful day. Every year there's a big invitation-only rugby tournament down in Monterey, California. 35 teams from around the world, right? Top tier, elite competition. My team, we were the champions here in the Northwest, so we're invited every year. And I got to the airport to go down to Monterey and realized that the book that I had been reading, I left on my bedside table. So, oh crap, I got nothing to do on the airplane. And, I'm not the kind of guy who could stare out the window for 3 hours or read the in-flight magazine 25 times. So, hey, I'm bright. I went to college. Let's go get another book. So, went to the bookstore. You've been to the airport bookstore. You know the drill. There's the wall of books. There's, the science fictions and the westerns and the thrillers and the spy novels and the bodice rippers. And up in the corner, this is going to sound strange, I actually had a mystical experience in the airport bookstore.
Okay.
So up in the corner, there's this book, and it started talking to me, like literally talking to me inside my head. Right, not an audio book, because those didn't exist then. But it was like, you need to buy me. I'm looking around. I was actually thinking somebody's talking to me. I don't know what the hell. So, okay, this is new. This is different. So I went and got this book, and it was called The Ultimate Athlete by a guy I'd never heard of named George Leonard. And we went to get on the plane. I thought, well, there'd be some stuff here that I can use. I'm going to see what I can do to pick up some tips and techniques for my trip, right? And I got to reading this book and I went, wow, there's all sorts of stuff here that I've never heard of. Synchronicity, intentionality, some Japanese energy called ki, and a martial art called Aikido. And I don't know what any of this stuff is, but I like it, right? So this book resonated with me. And I went to the tournament, blah, and flash forward. About 6 months later, I had the conversation with myself, there might be time to grow up. And I took up the study of Aikido. I met a guy who was a sports psychologist. I liked this guy because he had sciencey sounding explanations for experiences that I had. I'd just written off as too many bangs on the head or something, flashbacks to the 60s. And we got to be buddies and didn't know it was impossible. So we started a business. And the very first name of our company was called Sports Mind. And as you might guess from the name, what we were interested in was working with athletes. I was a first division rugby player. He'd been a world-class skier. And we wanted to isolate and reproduce in others the elements that led to consistent winning performance. And that was our mission and our mandate. And we chose working with athletes because it was in that arena where not only did you have permission to push the boundaries, but is expected to push the boundaries.
Yeah,
and that's what we wanted to do. What's out there on the frontiers of human potential and human performance. So we took basically the old Greek model, mind, body, spirit, added contemporary technology to it, and went to work. And we had a whole rash of clients, and they were all individual athletes. And we were doing extraordinary work in terms of off-field work, producing on-field performance enhancements. And the dilemma was, This was back in the early 80s before Nike and Adidas and everybody exists the way they do today. All of our clients were amateurs, which meant they were broke.
Yep.
So doing good work, not getting paid. Flaw in the business plan, right? So we turned our attention to teams. We saw the same thing you've seen, probably participated in, which is we could take a group of players who as individuals were terrific, put them together on a team, and the team would stink. We go, well, that makes no sense, but it happens so often, and not just in sports. So we built out and we coined the phrase team cohesion in 1982. Went to work with national teams, Olympic teams, professional teams. That work, much to my surprise, caught the attention of the Army. And yeah, we found ourselves down at scenic Fort Hood, Texas. You ever been to Fort Hood, Texas?
I have been to Fort Hood, Texas once.
There you go. And that was enough. So, here I am in this room full of officers. I'm 32 years old. I got my little blue blazer and my tie on, and it's August, and it's freaking 98 degrees and 95% humidity, at 8 o'clock in the morning. Right? So I'm like, oh my God, so this is hell. And they've got all these problems that they're working on, and they asked us to come down because they wanted help in solving they had soldiers who couldn't pass the physical fitness test.
Ooh.
And I said, okay, you got 18 to 22-year-old kids. Well, what's the test? And the test was, well, we've got some push-ups and some sit-ups, and you got to run. And well, my mother could do that. So, well, this is not a physical problem, right? This is a wanna problem. And so they went on to say they got crime in the barracks and too many guys are overweight and, we got low morale and all these other problems. And we said, well, but let me give you guys a quick little diagnosis here. You, the Army, are still kind of dealing with the lingering hangover from Vietnam, all right? And your response has been, we got to train all of our officers how to be better managers. So they started sending all these guys off to business school. And I said, well, that's nice. And I see you're using your business school methods here to try and solve all these problems. But two things. One, you've lost sight of the distinction between leadership and management. You don't manage soldiers to go and fight and die for you. That takes leadership.
Yeah.
And two, you've taken all these problems down because you're doing your root cause analysis. And so you've got all these little root remedial programs for everything. And by the time you do all these programs in a given day, there's no time for actual soldiering, which is what these guys signed up for. They didn't sign up to go to to Weight Watchers or, alcohol counseling, like that stuff. So we believe that we can solve all these for you at the same time. And they looked at me like with that RCA dog look, that, oh, yeah. And so, wow, this is cool. How much is it going to cost? I said, well, how the hell would I know? You were here. We just made this up.
Now you want to charge
it's not like I'm the Campbell's soup guy and, here's tomato. So, we'll take a lunch break. Go make a budget and come back. So I spent my lunch break at the very exciting Sizzler restaurant in Killeen, Texas, with my little yellow pad, making up numbers. And there was the angel and the devil. And, oh, that's too much. Oh, you're the guy who complains about the $400 hammers, and we'll negotiate. I've never done business with, and it was very noisy lunch is all I can say. So I get back in there and putting these numbers up on a flip chart, and it's getting increasingly quiet in the room. And I get to the bottom, and I forgot even. I think it's like $95,000 for this 3-month-long program. Now, in 1983, that was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money,
Yeah. So it was at this moment that I got my first big lesson in business. So the colonel in charge turns to the guy next to him and says, well, Colonel, what do you think about this? Well, frankly, sir, I'd rather not say in front of him. Oh, that's probably not good. So, way to go, greenhead, you blew it, blah, 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 blah. No, look, if we're going to do something, let's do it. If we're not, we're not. And the guy says, well, frankly, sir, we can take the armor assigned to the test unit in question, fire it up, and let it idle for 15 minutes and burn $95,000. That's nothing. Oh.
You underdid. I love it.
Oh, silly me. I'm so embarrassed. Math was never my strong suit. I forgot to carry the one. It's 195. Yeah. Well, that moment was gone. And my first big lesson in business was know your customer.
Yes. Yes.
$95,000 was a rounding error to these guys,
Yeah.
literally. He turns to me and he literally says, now, are you guys sure you thought of everything? Because we don't want, the Volkswagen. We want the Cadillac. We want to make sure we do this right. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So 6 weeks later, we had a sole source contract with the United States Army. They gave us the worst performing unit on the base, right?
Okay.
3 months later, they were number 2.
Nice. So
that got all sorts of attention, and we had a Harry met Sally moment when the guy who ran the battalion next door goes, I want what they're having. I'll have what they're having.
Yes, yes.
And that was the legendary Tiger Brigade, which was George Patton's old unit.
Okay.
So we did the same thing there, rocketed these guys. That program caught the attention. We got a front page article in the Army Times. They have their own internal newspaper. So now we're legendary across the Army. And you'll love this. So I'm sitting in my office, basking in the glory. And I get a phone call. Mr. Majer, this is Sergeant Schmedlap. Colonel Potter would like to speak with you. And I'm thinking, Colonel Potter, why is that? That's that guy on MASH, It's like, come on. I thought it was one of my moron friends.
Yeah.
Punking me. So I hung up on him. So the phone rings back in a couple of minutes, and I've got Sergeant Schmedlap again with a slightly different, in a slightly different mood this time. Mr. Majer, this is Sergeant Colonel William Potter of the 10th Special Forces Group would like to speak with you, sir. And he really doesn't appreciate being hung up on. Okay, so my relationship with Colonel Potter got off to a somewhat rocky start. And I'll fast forward, we ended up again with a sole source contract, year long. They gave us 2 A teams, which was 12 operators per team, under our direct operational control, 24 hours a day for 6 months. They'd never done anything like that before or since. And we broke all the records they had for their standard tests. Right? I mean, just, torched them. And at the end of that, I said to my guys, all right, look, we've been fortunate in that we've had an opportunity to build a body of work that's proven effective in 2 arenas where performance matters and where you can measure it, athletes and soldiers. While doing the work with the soldiers was extraordinary, best stuff we ever did, the process of getting to do it, the government contracting process, was sufficiently odious that I don't really want to hire 3 or 4 people to have to do contract compliance, to keep doing this stuff. So we're going to turn our attention to the corporate world. Now, as you can maybe get, there's an underlying theme here, which is that at this point in time, Providence was smiling on us. Kind of everything we touched turned golden quickly. And I said, look, we're going to turn our attention to business. And this game is going to be actually more challenging than what we've been doing. And they all looked at me like I was nuts. And I said, I don't mean physically, you idiots. It's business, all right? There's no timeout. There's no spring training. There's no stand down. By our standards, they don't do any real training. And on any given team, there's a vast gap in the level of competence and commitment on the part of the players. How do we work in that arena? So I'll give you a little sidebar because it's another great moment for business. So I said, I'm going to put together a business plan. We're going to go out and raise some money. You'll notice that throughout my career, I never wanted my name on the company. Right. So I was, this moment in time, there was this kid named Tony Robbins coming up and, Werner Erhard and all these guys. And I said, the problem with that model is it's a glorified mom and pop business. If Tony gets run over by a bus, that's it. Right. So I don't want my name on it. We're going to build our company based on the strength of our content. Right. So they said, well, that's nice, but you don't know how to write a business plan. I said, you guys are so supportive. So I put together this plan. I talked to a couple guys in the business community, and they said, ooh, man, this is going to be a tough lift. I mean, it's a service business. Nobody really understands it. It's kind of woo-woo. And, you're probably going to have some trouble with that. Very first guy I talked to says, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And wrote me a check for $450,000 in 1984.
Woo! Wow. Okay.
So
First guy. First, you didn't have to
literally the very first guy. So I come back and I'm like, what's the big deal about raising money? What's so hard about this?
What's so hard? You thought it was going to be challenging.
What? So we built a corporate program. Remember now, Providence. So we needed some place to test it. This guy's partner owned a manufacturing company in Shelton, Washington, which you've never heard of because you can't get any farther from the business mainstream in this country than Shelton, Washington. It's across Puget Sound from Seattle to the west. If you go another 40 miles, 50 miles west of there, you're in the Pacific Ocean, right? There's nothing out there. And so my thought was, well, if this works here, it'll work anywhere. And if it doesn't work, nobody will ever know about it. So we went, and the plant was supposedly maxed out in terms of production, right? So the guys were like, well, you knock yourself out, but there's really not much you can do. We put all 300 people through this 3-day program in batches of 100. And 6 weeks later, production was up 20%. Wow. Yeah, the guys couldn't believe it. Now, unfortunately, the guy who owned it, being a shrewd entrepreneur, said, production up 20%. It's at a peak. It's probably never going to be worth anything more. So he turned around and sold it. So
as quick as they could.
Yeah, we didn't get to do any long-term studies, right? So, but Brian, my second client was AT&T.
Whoa.
Yeah, okay. So I went from business obscuria to center ring in the circus, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right? Now, how's this for a mandate? This is right after divestiture had happened, right? So the phone company's being broken up. They're just in turmoil back at AT&T headquarters. Prior to that, they were the single largest organization outside of the Pentagon in the country, over 400,000 employees. And their consumer products division, which was all their phone stores, was 400 phone stores, 32 business offices, 40,000 people, losing $200 million a year. And under the old Bell system, it's not like nobody noticed, but nobody really cared, because that's the joy of monopoly. We were making a boatload of money off of long distance and all this other stuff. But now you got to get competitive. So the board says to consumer products, you got 18 months to turn this around. If you can't do it, we're just going to shut it down and do retail through Sears or something. Mm-hmm. So, these guys are paralyzed. They don't know what to do. There's no precedence. There's no Harvard Business School case study on this. So they do what every big company does in those moments. Call McKinsey. So McKinsey comes in, and you can probably know how this story turns out, and took the head count from 40,000 to 16,000 in 9 months. So imagine that, 40,000 to 16,000 in 9 months. And they're quite proud of themselves, because their mandate was to stop the financial hemorrhaging, which had in fact stopped. But they were like, the arrogant doctor who's crowing, well, the patient quit bleeding. That's because he's dead, you half-wit. Yeah, he's not bleeding, all right.
Yeah, he's not
doing
bleeding
anything
anymore.
else either. He's also not breathing. So, and it was the same there. Pretty much everything had stopped in the organization. So they got together, had a meeting, and at the meeting it was decided that they literally needed a miracle. All right. And so our mandate, this project it was called Project Miracles, literally.
Really? Okay.
How's that for a miracle? We need a miracle. And you're old enough, you remember Mike and the Mechanics, their song, All I Need Is a Miracle? That was our theme song.
Oh my gosh.
We put 6,000 managers through this week-long and some follow-ups program over the course of 18 months. I went from 5 guys to 85 guys. And as I tell everybody, the business succeeded oftentimes despite my best efforts. As I'm pretty sure I made every stupid mistake you could make in trying to grow the business, which is where now all my wisdom came from. But over the course of 48 months, those guys, they went from break-even to generating over $3 billion in profit for AT&T.
Whoa,
yeah.
They changed oh, wow.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden I'm a rock star, right? So we got everybody in AT&T wants this. I'm on the Today Show, McNeil Lair, yada, 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 yada. So the business is rocking until the economy collapsed in 2007, 2008. I had blue chip client list, AT&T, Intel, EDS, Capital One, Cargill, Citibank, blah, 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 blah. We're golden. And then we're not. I mean, literally, we went from doing millions a year to zero. That was a definite no fun moment.
Right? Of course, yes,
yeah.
I remember.
So, we built it back up, and then COVID happened, and that really killed it because everything we do was live.
It was live with people.
It's not happening. So we're in the midst of putting together some online stuff. I do a lot of coaching and consulting. We do some smaller programs as they're finally starting to come back. But the theme line through all this story here is I've had a unique opportunity, a set of experiences that, most nobody else would ever have, and some would be terrified and some would be envious, but it's been an absolutely amazing journey. And what held it all together, way back in the early days, I went through a process with the guy, and he took me to understand, what's your stand in life? What do you believe in? What are you here for? And I articulated it as, I'm going to stand for the full and free expression of the human spirit. How do we enable people to not just get better, but fully realize, who they are, what they're up to? And that's been the theme of everything that we do, continue to do. And we've focused in a business arena, but we're also now starting to do some consumer stuff. And it's just been quite an exciting journey. And that's a rather long answer to your question of tell me your story.
Oh my gosh, how incredible. I mean, although there's ups and downs, which is just part of life, it's so amazing that you kept moving forward and you didn't stop because you're helping people. Become. And when I think about, you were talking about, even purpose here in the end and helping people get to that. You seem like you're in that business where personal development for these people or these individuals, not only as part of teams, but individually, what through this, and we think about your identity, helped you continue to become that person that you needed to be as you're thinking about your purpose, and how much time did you spend on, hey, I got to be better to do better because people are counting on me?
Well, yeah, good question. So one of my, and by extension, our guiding principles is you can't teach what you don't do. Right? So we don't have any purveyors of, what's the technical term? Bullshit, on the team. So I made a point to go and do lots of competitor programs. I spent time at Esalen. I did some context training and all these different things, so I can get what else is going on out there? Because I'm not going to delude myself into thinking I've got all the answers. So everything that we've done has kind of been a compendium of other stuff, my own invention, my own creation, but it's always been from the point of view of we're never done. There's no moment in which, okay, we're done. We can put a bow around it now and call it all good and just, package up the same stuff without ever making any enhancements or changes or anything. We have the foundational stuff that has stood the test of time. So yeah, our foundational stuff looks pretty much like it did 30 years ago. But the build and build and build and build and build continues to evolve.
Let's go. The thing you just said that just hit me is you said we can't teach what we don't do. What you didn't say is we can't teach what we haven't done, because you even talked about times where, hey, we didn't know what we were. We were at the Army. We had no clue what we were doing. So, and I think of like a coach like Bill Belichick, who never played professional football, but he's coaching it, he's teaching it, right? And so, but I love what you can't teach what you don't do. Maybe kind of talk about that a little bit in context.
Well, yeah. So
having to do something, yeah.
Well, the fundamental thing, when we're talking about how do you develop yourself, I coined a phrase a while back. You can't learn if you don't change, and you can't change if you don't learn. Right? They're kind of synonyms in a certain sense. And the dilemma that we have in our society, to put it bluntly, is we've been sold a bill of goods about learning. if you ask most people today, they will tell you that learning is the acquisition of information, theories, models, beliefs, ideas, all for the sake of gaining knowledge. Because to know is to understand, or to understand is to know, excuse me. So just to gain understanding, because understanding means you know it. And it's not like we learned this is, ancient stuff, but what we solidified in working with athletes was understanding's the booby prize. In that world, in the world of sports and any performance world, I don't care what you understand. What I want to know is what can you do, right? So we articulate it this way. Our product is what we call embodied competence. Embodied means you can take that new action without having to stop, think about it, look it up in some book. And competence is simply the capacity to consistently produce the desired result, right? Now, this is where it scrambles everybody's eggs. While your mind understands, and understanding can in fact occur in an instant, in the end it's your body that learns. And your body only learns one way, and that's through practice. No amount of understanding ever produced competence. Only practice does. And this is the killer that people don't like, and practice takes time.
Yeah.
So if you think about anything that you've actually learned in life, you go, well, yeah, that's right. How'd you learn to drive? They didn't just say, here, read the driver's manual, take the test, and if you do well on the test, we'll give you a license, did they? No. The answer is no. And you play golf or any of that kind of stuff? All right.
Yeah.
So let's assume for this conversation, you are committed to making a big improvement in your golf game. Okay? What are you going to do? Well, most people say, I'm going to go to the range and practice. Okay, good. So what you want to do is get better at being bad. What?
Exactly.
Well, you already said that your current level of competence was insufficient. So you're going to practice at that same level and really deeply embed that incompetence into your system. Well, no, if you're really serious, what you're going to do is you're going to hire a coach, right? Right? Because the coach is a different and better observer of you than you are of yourself. All right, so how's that work? You go to the range and you meet the coach, and she says, "Hey, Brian, nice to meet you." So let's work on your game. Take a few shots. So you're kind of nervous as she's standing there watching you, right? You hit a few shots, and she says, "Okay, do this. Move your feet a little bit, adjust your grip a little bit, stand this way, and now take a few shots." What happens to those next few shots? They're crap.
They're worse than the shots that you were.
They're absolute garbage. Right. Why? Because it's new. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. And your head's going, oh, I don't like this. And, your little inner whiner is going off. And if the coach wasn't standing right there with you, what would you do? The answer is the same thing most everybody else would do, which is go back to doing it the way that it was.
Yeah.
Because even though I decided or I determined that wasn't all that great, it was comfortable. And this is why most adults never learn anything. We're more committed to being comfortable than we are to learning. And you cannot learn anything in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Now, that makes perfectly good sense when you're talking about golf or tennis or skiing, but it's no different when you're talking about leadership or management or anything else. Practice. So our programs, what made them so successful, they didn't last for a day or two. They'd last, our flagship program lasted 9 months. Right? So you had an immersion up front, and then a series of 2-day conferences. But where the real learning took place was, I'm making this up now. So you're the CEO of this company. You're going to give us 100, 200, I don't care, of your people. And I say to you, before we even get started, all right, Brian, here's what I want you to do. Take this group, because you know them, we don't. I want you to put them into small teams of 5 or 6. You can, if you want to cross-fertilize, you want to put them in, whatever, however you want, right? Because like I said, you know them, we don't. And I want each of these teams to have a project. Project has to meet 3 conditions of satisfaction. It has to be critical to the business strategy, so we don't want some made-up crap. It's got to have a measurable financial impact, which means it's either going to generate revenue or drive cost out of the building, out of the business. And third, it's got to be complex enough that you think it's going to take about a year to get it done.
Okay.
Yep. Now, they don't have to be new projects. They can be things that they're already working on, or because in many corporations, you've got big projects. So these could be subsets, big project. Again, totally up to you. And then we're going to have these teams work together throughout the duration of this process. And each of those teams is going to be assigned one of our coaches. And at the end of each of these conferences, they get an assignment, which has basically to do with take what you learned here and now go to work and put it to work. And you know, what happens is just like with golf. The first few times you try something new, it's not going to work. You know, that's because you're a beginner. Of course, it's not going to work, but that's what the coach is for. So they get together, you know, every other week for a coaching session. And over the course of time, the acceleration of what these people could do was absolutely extraordinary. So I'll give you one example. You remember Columbia House? You know, you're old enough to remember Columbia House.
Yeah, give me the tape.
Yeah. 6 CDs for $1. Yay. Okay.
Yeah, of course I remember Columbia House.
And they always impressed me because I remember back when I was in college and when, you know, you moved around a lot. These guys could find you even when the IRS couldn't.
Everywhere.
I was like, damn. Here's my welcome to the neighborhood package and Barry Manilow's greatest hits.
Yes. Oh my
God. How
God.
do they do that? Well, imagine this if you can. They're rocking. They've been an institution. They're $1 billion a year company. Blackstone buys them. BlackRock buys them. Comes in, installs their golden boy CEO, and then every business nightmare. They went from being $1 billion to a $600 million a year company in 1 quarter. What happened?
Wow. Okay.
Let's see if you know your history. What happened?
The internet. And
in
audio.
general, yes. And the precise answer is Napster.
I remember that. Yes, I know Napster. Okay. Because they were able to get videos and songs and everything.
6 CDs for $1 is great, but free's better.
Free's way better.
And I really don't want Barry Manilow's greatest hits. But apologies to Barry, wherever you are, but you know, that was not on my gotta have list. So I could pick and it was free. Now, that sent everybody into a panic. You'll love this. They hired Bain to give them advice on what to do. And Bain's advice was, well, get into the video business. And I'm like, follow the bouncing ball? It's like, well, nobody will be able to download video. That's what you guys just said, 6 months ago about music. Hello.
Yeah.
Some of us has not been keeping up with current events. And so we came in, the place was in a culturally speaking, somewhere between a shambles and paralyzed. And okay, let's see if we can revitalize this thing. So we got up, they gave us our top 100 people. We got that structure set up. All right, give me a project. One of the projects was we need to start a new business unit. Okay, great. Have you done this before? Yeah, lots of times. What's your best time concept to launch? 18 months. That's my benchmark? Yes. Using our methods, they went from concept to launch in 7 months.
Okay.
So they saved 11 months of burn on a project team and consultants, and they got 11 months of early unexpected revenue. That one project more than paid for the cost of our engagement. Right? The other 9 were all gravy. So they had this kind of classic CFO, cranky guy, Frank Mergenthaler, God love him. If you look up CFO in the dictionary, it had his picture there. It was just the quintessential.
I can imagine then.
Yeah.
Okay.
and so we get all done. We're at the very last day of this thing, and people are, here's all the great stuff we learned, and it's all wonderful. And all of our projects come with a financial promise. We promise a minimum of 10 times what you spend on us. You'll get at least 10x back, or we keep working until you do. Now, parenthetically, we've never had to spend an extra day on a project. But Frank gets up and he goes, when you guys showed up with this 10x promise, I thought it was just more consultant bullshit. So I ran some numbers last night. You didn't hit 10x. And I'm thinking, ruh-roh, my numbers are a little different. Then he gets this big shit-eating grin in his face. He goes, "Yeah, I quit counting at about 60."
60x. Wow.
Yeah. So he says, you now occupy the status of the only consultants I'll ever recommend to anybody.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
so cool. That's so cool. So did you save it? I mean, did you? Obviously, you didn't save the music and that. Them being able to do it.
No. Here's what happened. The other projects all worked, just about as well. So we never got them back up to that old level, but we did get them up to the point where they could sell the company, which they did. And the night the deal closed, the CEO, instead of going out to dinner with the new owners, took me out to dinner to thank me.
To thank you for getting them. Oh my gosh! And then I just think, what did the new owner do with a whole bunch of videotapes and CDs? And
the new owner, oh my God. I mean, I shouldn't be naming names, but let's just say the new owner, if you'd give me the assignment of, here's the 10 things you must do to make this successful, and here's the 10 things you must not do. It's like they got the lists mixed up.
Oh gosh.
They just went right down the don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And it's like, oh my God, you guys are trying to kill the thing.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, that's the problem, is in the end we don't have any long-term, control over what goes on here. But, we did our part. They were grateful,
Yeah, perfect. So when I think about I have a whole thing that I try to train people on is like becoming the person that you were put on this earth to do in order to do it and then have. And then I call it be, do, have. And it's writing a book on it. And because so many people try to have first, then do,
they got the sequence all backwards.
Yeah, they got it so backwards. But because of our culture, our society that we're in, we spend so much time in trying to have. We go out, we go, let me have this. And we say, okay, now what do I got to do to keep it? How have you helped people go, wait, this is so backwards. This is so, it helps people actually become.
Good question, because, be, do, have is, an ancient model. And we lose sight of that. So, you said it. I mean, you have to start with being. Being begets doing, and doing begets having. Right? And you get in trouble when you try and do it the other way. So our programs and the work that even when I'm coaching, we still start the same way. We figured out way back when that the elite performers in the world, and it didn't matter what they were performing in or at, artists, musicians, executives, soldiers, athletes, all had one thing in common. And it didn't matter what culture or language, the terminology might be different, but they had a shared set of principles that they lived their lives by. And we came to call them, the elite performance principles or the universal performance principles. And there are, 8 of them. That's a foundation that we lay down for everybody. We start there. Because when companies come to us and say, well, can you get these guys to work together as a team? I say, well, yeah, I can do that, but we're not going to start there. No point teaching practices and stuff for teamwork if we don't have solid people on the team. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody's like, well, there's no I in team. I go, well, actually, if you take it all apart to all those straight lines, there's 13 of them. So,
yeah, if you want to break it down,
you're going to
could be an I.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we start there. Right. So we lay down these principles, and then awareness and choice, and they're not terms that people have never heard for the most part. But what makes the team work is we have a shared common language, right?
Yeah.
And a shared set of expectations, and that's the foundation for getting the team working. And so we start there. Who are you being, right? Such that either what you're doing or having isn't what you want. And wanting something different is nice, but if you quote want it, that's exactly what the universe delivers. You're left wanting, right? Which isn't the same thing as having it. There's a gap there. And why? You got to go back to the being part. Who are you being? And importantly, one of the questions I always ask new leaders is, who do you need to be? Not what do you need to do, but who do you need to be to make this aren't successful, And when we work with new leaders, it's always been interesting to me, and this is a problem now across our economy, is we've got a whole generation of, quote, leaders coming up who don't really know what leadership is. They're trained as managers, and all too often financial guys, and or worse yet, lawyers. And neither of those historically make really great leaders, just because of the way they've been trained, right? And it's not their fault. But I asked, a new CEO, okay, what's your job? What are your main job responsibilities now as the CEO? And every time it's the same thing. I get this laundry list of I said, okay, hold it. So first of all, you've ticked off 15 things. Nobody can effectively take care of all those kinds of things. And secondly, all those things are managerial things.
Ouch.
Right? So let me mess you up a little bit here, sport. As a leader, you really only have two fundamental responsibilities. Number one, you're the guardian of the mood of the enterprise. And number two, you're the architect of the future. And you can't do either of those if you've got your fingers in all the little managerial things.
All the micros.
Right, and that's the hardest thing, and what causes most failures at that level is they can't make the transition. So we do this whole body of work on what we call mood management, and everybody's like, oh, it's all that touchy-feely, we're supposed to play Barry White music. I say, well, that's not the mood we want for business, but that does have an impact on it. So let me stop there, because I'll wander off on a tangent here about moods, and you didn't really ask about that. So.
Oh no, it's so good because we're talking right to the heart of things. What I really want to ask you is about relationship, because with all this AI and all the artificial intelligence and trying to get away from people, I don't need you because I need, I can learn everything I need to know, if I type a few buttons into ChatGPT and get there. And so, but this relationship piece that you have built your whole entire world on, it is so prevalent. And somehow we think that I can bypass the need for cultivating relationships. And how would you speak to that in this day and age with AI and combining the two, because it's not going away, that we maintain those relationships?
Sorry, I'm in a borrowed office, and I think they've got the air conditioning on instead of the heat. Damn, cold in here. Very good question. So what would I say to that? We don't need relationships. I say, boy, I don't think I've heard a more preposterous bunch of crap in a long time. So everything is based on relationship, and it's back to what we were talking about in learning. So I can get information, but that's not really the part that matters. So you don't build trust by using AI. You don't build that kind of connection. And what companies are finding now is, as a result of the phenomenon you just said, when COVID, everybody went away. Just now, people are figuring out, well, wait a minute, that didn't work. And one of the early indicators, the canary in the coal mine, is innovation essentially stopped in most organizations. Because where innovation comes from is not the top declaring, it's the bottom percolating. And they percolate in their interactions and their relationships with each other, and sitting down over lunch and having coffee and going out for beers after work, cooking up ideas. And that all quit. And now we've come to realize, hey, wait a minute, that might not have been such a good idea to have everybody disperse. Oh, well, look at the money we save because we don't need the office. Well, turns out actually you do. I don't mean an office, but you need physical proximity for human beings. We're social creatures, right? We're not designed to be in isolation. We get nutty when you do that too much. And you see it now. I mean, there's a lot of people who are kind of, they forgot how to interact with each other. And then you've got this whole generation that's been raised on this stuff.
Mhm.
And some of them are dangerously clueless about, interactions and how to be with people and how you build cultures and teams and trust and all the things that essentially hold an organization together.
Yeah. So, I mean, like if you're teaching stuff now, are you telling you have to build in, especially because you did it like with AT&T with all of these folks and bringing people in and together and doing this? Are you telling people now that, okay, the Zooms and, we get to have this conversation in two different parts of the world, but how often do we need to be in that proximity you're
Yeah,
talking
it's a
about in
good,
order
very
to?
good question. So I don't actually today, I don't need to tell people. They're figuring it out for them. They
Okay.
figured it out, right? There's only so much you can get from a Zoom. Everybody hates Zoom, big Zoom meetings. It's like, oh God, not again. So our formula is you need to have, people in the office at least 2 or 3 days a week,
Mhm.
period. And then you've got to get, quote, everybody together, because since those 2 or 3 days probably don't always match up with everybody, at least once a quarter. You got to get the band together, and I don't mean just to have everybody in the office for one day, but do something. And this is where we've got to do some more innovation, because when I say do something, they want to do what I used to refer to as the happy clappy stuff. Oh, let's have a team building day and we'll go for pizza and beer. Oh, well, good, because now we're getting fat and drunk. That's not quite, not what I had. Well, let's go have a golf outing. No, you missed it again. So paintball. No, we're not going to go out and shoot each other. It's kind of contraindicated, as the doctors would say, for
Mhm.
building a team. And that kind of stuff now is slowly starting to come back. And hopefully we'll see more of that, as the beat goes on. Excuse me for a minute. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just see this deep, deep, I guess, yearning uh, for relationship and for
Yeah.
relationships to thrive, and and there's so many I don't know if I just want to say lonely people that are in the
Yep.
world because they don't have any connection. Either
That's
connection
right.
is so lost. It's the corrections is a screen, or their connection they what they call doom scrolling or something, on these
Yep.
platforms and just watching and being personally entertained but not being fed. Do
Yeah.
you have a solution or an answer to helping people like, hey, snap out of it?
Well, it's a challenge, because without wanting to go too deep into this, as you know, all these social media platforms are designed to be addictive.
Of course.
So you catch yourself and you're going, what the hell am I doing? I've been flipping through stuff here for 20 minutes. I'm supposed to be doing, X, Y, and Z. So, stop it. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just not quite as simple as just say, stop it.
Hmm.
'Cause now you got your brain stuff working on. And it's really very counterproductive for really wanting to, quote, maximize our human potential. So what I tell people is you need to block out periods of time every day, every single day, where there's no electronics. Period. Get off the email. You don't need social media. Read something. Oh, that's so boring. And I look at myself and I'm like, okay, smart guy, you teach all this stuff, but what are you doing? So I literally had to catch myself. I said, 3 years ago, I had a daily reading practice. It's been an hour a day,
Hmm.
different magazines and newspapers and stuff. And I had to forcibly discipline myself to go back to doing that. Because now, with this short attention span stuff, I'll read some post, and if it's, more than 2 paragraphs, like, oh, God, that's so long. What happened to reading books?
I know. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm like, wait a minute here. So, we got to pay attention to and kind of push against the machine that's driving you away from that. Because
Yeah.
we get all these, I love all these guys that, well, I'm an authority now on, whatever. because I read about it on Google.
Yeah.
I'm actually here in the back end of a medical clinic where we're doing some AI work, and the doctors here are constantly fuming, as the patients come in and, well, I read about this, and this must be what I have. I'm self-diagnosed because I saw this on TikTok.
On Google or TikTok.
And they're like, yeah, okay, so you watched 3 different TikTok clips by people who are not doctors. I went to school for 12 years. So which one of these do you think knows more about what's going on here?
Yeah.
And these people actually argue. They're like, well, what about?
Yeah.
Wow. It's like, no, just stop,
Yeah.
and now we've got all these self-proclaimed foreign policy experts and da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like, dude, all right, everybody repeat after me. Fox is not news.
Woo!
I'm sorry, but
we've been so far away from news so long.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
we don't even know what news is.
Yeah.
It just, oh my gosh. Well, Chris, thank you for being part of this today. There are some things I'm sure that you want to tell us and how to get a hold of you and all that kind of stuff that we didn't get to. I was being super selfish because I was asking you the questions I want to know so I can better my life. So I appreciate that. I got 2 or 3 pages of notes here. But what do you want to make sure that our
I'll just leave you with a couple things. So,
Okay.
I've got a book out. When I talk to you about what we call these elite or universal performance principles, that's what my book is all about.
Okay.
So if people want to really dig into and understand them, the book's called The Power to Transform.
Okay.
Not surprisingly, it's by me. And you can get it, the easiest way, frankly, is Amazon.
Okay.
I have an inventory of them, but by the time I get one and package it up and sell, you could have it already delivered from Amazon, and it'll be cheaper. So get the book on Amazon. If you like what I've been talking about, you can check us out on our corporate website, which is humanpotentialproject.com. I do speaking and comedy stand-ups from chrismajer.com. And we're going to be releasing soon a new online program. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Really cool. All right. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. And this has been so enlightening because you're talking about the stuff I want to talk about, but you're not talking about it as if you read it on Google and now you're the expert on it. You actually have decades and decades
of
experience
I am
of
the
helping
embodiment
people.
of that old Beatles song, "A Long and Winding Road."
A long and winding road. Yes, I love it. And so please go to his website, go to chrismajer.com. Please go to, get his book. I'll put all those in below so you'll be able to click on it. One thing, if you're watching live now, we'll have it there for you later, but we'll make sure that it is part of you being able to get in touch with Chris. And Chris, thank you again for being on. Do you have one final thought that you would love to just share with everybody before we end it today?
Oh, Lord. My one final thought is don't fall for tips and techniques. Take the time, really learn, build yourself. We've got an infinite supply of human potential, and we're barely scratching it. So take the time, take a deep dive, really get clear about who you are, what you're up to, and do something with it. Make your mark in the world.
And just like he said before, learning is everything. Learning is what we do now. It's not go pick up one of those encyclopedias from the 1970s and memorize the stuff that's in it. It is consistently continuing to learn and to better yourself that's going to make the difference. And don't forget about those relationships. All right. Thank you for today. Thank you for another great show.
Loved it.
If this is the first show you've seen of ours, then go ahead and hit the subscribe and the notifications. I got many, many shows that are just like this, that are just incredible people telling us what they've done in life and how to get it done ourselves. And so don't forget your God's grace gift. He loves you if you allow him to, and we'll look forward to talking to you on the next one. See you guys later.